stand tall. Words are blades that never fall. Debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean. Spirited minds sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night. Join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the Spartan arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena there's no chance to escape the vibrant lore. Diving deep and search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the Spartan arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard.
Welcome to the spot. It's time to ignite. Oh yeah. Operation Hangout. The feeling's just right. Chilling with the crew. We're ready to groove. Opinions flying high. Come on, let's move. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Pull up a chair, let's get in the zone. Voices blend and smooth, like a funky trombone. Oh yeah. Topics from the heart, making us think. With a twist and a shout, raise up your drink. Cheers! Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Bring it down, shake it up, feel the beat. With every word we share, the circle's complete. Woo! Living loud, thinking proud, that's what we do. Oh yeah. Join the club, come on through, we're waiting for you. Alright. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Hang out.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Next Gen Training here on the Sparta HQ Network. I am Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always, the Coach Ferg, in the building tonight. Good to have you guys with us on this Thursday evening. Make sure when you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Certainly, as you come in, certainly helps the algorithm. As again, we engage certainly in another evening of hopefully insightful dialogue on how to be better and do better. Certainly, this is for men and women, people of all ages could certainly benefit from this. Make sure you share the content with somebody who you think could certainly benefit from what we'll be dropping tonight. But certainly good to be with you guys, and as always, good to be with the coach. Coach, how are you doing tonight? So as always, we want to find out how everyone's pies are. So again, as you come in tonight, certainly if you want to give us a summary of how the day has gone for you in the concept of pie, P being physical, I being intellectual, E being emotional, and S being spiritual. So again, we like to sort of do a check in with everybody as you come in tonight. Put your pies report certainly in the chat, and so we can certainly highlight that if need be. But Coach, how's your day going, and how's your pie chart going? What's going on with you, sir?
Oh, what's up, brother Benny? Again, thank everybody for joining, man. Salute to y'all, man. I guess just on the home front, as as me and my wife, we're thinking about these tariffs that may really affect the economy and purchasing of items, right? So we're torn between thinking about getting another truck,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to beat the price hikes that possibly may be coming down the road. So
Yeah.
we're trying to work through that. I think we're gonna be able to move forward this weekend.
Okay. Wow. All right.
And I've been trying to talk her down. She wants a big 2,500. I'm like, I already have a 18 Ram with the Ram boxes, which is
Right.
highly wanted. A lot of people want the Ram box, but it's not. So I'm gonna keep it because I paid it off, and I don't want to trade it in. But I'm gonna use that to transport my animals and things like that. But she wants to sit high up, and so we're looking to finalize that hopefully by Saturday. Physically, again, man, I got some ailments. Now my neck is, well, the doctor told me I have arthritis, so.
Arthur and Ritis showed
Yes,
up at the same
Arthur
time.
and both of them showed up. So I got stiffness in my neck, and my hands sort of tighten up sometime. But I'm working through it. I had a virtual appointment today, so just going to stay on top of that. Intellectually, I look forward to just coming here and covering the topics. The last 3 weeks, this has been the third show, correct? Yeah, the third show.
Yeah.
It's going
Yeah.
by fast. So just been interested to get into the topics, thinking about that, and and just moving forward, from week to week. What is the next one? See, emotionally, I'm pretty calm. I'm pretty well, I'm a little excited because we're trying to talk through this whole thing of purchasing a vehicle, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty relaxed though, because we usually put our minds together and things work out, pretty much the way we planned it. We usually just move in our own time, but now
Right.
we started trying to beat the time. But yeah, it's cool. And spiritually, man, I'm connected to this space right here, man. Being in right here
Awesome.
with you, man. So salute, man. And
Awesome.
I'm in.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Shout out to Mariana in the building tonight. Cash Rain, also in my man Eric's in the building tonight. So again, that you guys all are here tonight. And again, certainly we'd like to know about your pies chart. Certainly check in with us and let us know how things going with you. Again, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. I'll start out physically. I'm not good, but for a good reason. So I did my leg day is on Wednesdays. So that is, it's less than an hour, but it is pretty intense even now. But the only thing I did was I changed up how I do stuff. I used to start out with like some squats. Now I put squats at the end because I would kind of pre-exhaust my legs so I don't have to squat as heavy for the weight to feel the same. So I'm barely going over 2.25 on a squat. But but trying to get that up the upper 200s into the threes, the 315s. I'm putting it for the side for now. Just again adapted to my age.
Mhm.
So the next day, the Thursdays is usually like the hangover. So I'm a little sore, I'm a little stiff, and so I got to do some stretching a little bit later and kind of get things limbered up a little bit, and just recover for my upper body working on Saturday. Now, last Saturday I worked out and I had a little bit of a tweak. So I'm doing some chins, some body weight chins, palms facing chins. I got up to about rep 11. Felt a little bit of a pull, a little bit of a something, and I just said,
It's
"Boom!"
like, oh.
I just dropped it right there. It's like, and look, I'm not trying to break any records, and so certainly that my right lat, right here in
Mm,
my armpit area was a little sensitive there, and it's what I also learned about physical is like you'd be surprised, when people injured, you don't realize what muscles do what. So
mhm,
I continued my workout, but I worked around it. But there were certain movements that I couldn't do. I couldn't do a cable crossover because again, that involves, even though you're working your chest, it involves some of the lat also. So
mhm,
anything that even just touched it, I stayed away from. But it's just amazing how I had to make some adjustments just to make sure I got through my workout that Saturday. So it then came back. Said Wednesday was the leg day, so feeling a little bit fatigued. Trying to catch up on some sleep. I got no sleep last weekend with the weddings and all the other stuff that was going on. I don't know if you guys tuned in for our gray area show. We talked about the wedding that I came in literally in a tuxedo. I didn't take
that's
my tuxedo
real.
off. So I was talking about that and all the aftermath of that event. So I got very little sleep and I'm still trying to catch up to it to get some rest. Hopefully I'll get some rest this weekend. But other than that, intellectually, always feeding my mind with information. I like high intelligent debate, so I'm always watching different videos to talk about, spiritual things, scientific things, and a combination of scientific and spiritual. So I'm always feeding my mind in. Plus, even just with my job, I'm always learning new skills every day. Learn some new skills today that I had a chance to practice on and kind of master a little bit. So I'm good there. Emotionally, I always try to hold it together. My thing is I try to be a thermostat, not a thermometer, and always kind of keep an
Mm,
even keel with the right perspective on everything that even when I'm feeling bad, like I said, I got injured a little bit over the weekend, but that
mhm,
taught me a lesson too about how the whole body works together.
mhm,
So I kind of work hard at keeping everything in the proper perspective. And spiritually, look, I'm always connected to the Creator, trying to stay connected to my family and my kids, and be sensitive to what their needs are. But other than that, I am blessed, and I can't complain about that. So that's my check in. And again, for those of you who are certainly looking to check in, you guys certainly can drop your what's going on with y'all as well. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well, and certainly, making sure that everything is good. And that obviously, Eric being the I guess the older brother, all right. So he's always saying, "All right, watch that hit method," that those
mhm,
techniques or whatnot. I'm always mindful. Always. I've only had probably 2 injuries from training. Actually, yeah, 3 injuries ever. And certainly since I've been doing hit training ever. And this one I would even call this wasn't even hit. This was just basically I'm just warming up with some chins. That's not hit training per se, at least not the way I was doing them. So it's the hit stuff is actually the safer stuff when
mhm,
you think about it, because you got to do everything slow and controlled, and you don't do any ballistic movements or anything like that. But when you're just doing body weight chins, you're just trying to get as many in as you can, like you're going for a PT test. That can be a little bit more dated. So again, I might want to rest for a minute and go more to like lat pull downs or something like that, use machines. But when you're doing body weight stuff, especially when I'm 235, so how not too many dudes doing 10 or more chins at 235. So, but I got to be mindful also that so I'm working with a lot of body weight as well. But other than that, everything is good. So tonight we're going to be talking about this idea of communication, how to have better communication using a particular technique called the D.E.E.P technique, D.E.E.P. So we're going to go over that. But what I found interesting was in the description of the technique, really what this is for tonight is not just a specific audience that you're talking to. We're talking about people who tend to be more on the narcissistic side of things or the toxic individuals. So again, this is all of us, at some point or another, you might have to deal with individuals who are toxic, who are, or have a high sense of entitlement, and those are things that can be very difficult. So now, some things you can't, sometimes you can't avoid it, because sometimes these are your family members, those are closest to you. Sometimes it's a coworker, and or just people you can't avoid. But how can you be better? How can you um, not necessarily add fuel to the fire? Is what we're looking to explore tonight. And again, I got these certainly these points from Coach. So again, I'll let him sort of elaborate on just overall, how do you come across the information and what the goal of it is, and then I sort of bring some slides up. We can certainly go through it, because I also want to talk about who we talk about, who our audience is, and the characteristics, what to look for. Because a lot of times we find ourselves in conversations, but we don't even know who we're talking to, and therefore you get yourself so deep into the conversation. It's like, oh, maybe I should have started this differently had I known the personality of who I'm dealing with. So Coach, what's your opening insights on this before we do a deep dive into the subject?
I mean, just like you said, man, just the whole conversation itself it takes some really deep diving into who you are as a person, trying to figure out uh, the nuances, the good, the bad, and the ugly about you and how you communicate, like you said, with yourself. Because I believe everybody at least speaks to themselves in some capacity. You may not speak it out loud, but you're thinking some things to yourself, your family, your friends, your job, your coworkers, your supervisors, the people at the grocery store, the people working on your car. I think that's, communication and how you communicate is very important to the results you're trying to achieve.
Mhm.
So for myself, like I said, a lot of things that we're covered over the years, I've been able to be a part of some type of workshop, some type of seminar, and just in the information that I've used to sort of help individuals who may struggle with communication to their loved one, fathers to sons, fathers to daughters, mothers to sons, mothers to daughters, grandparents to grandchildren,
Mhm.
grandfathers. I sort of had to find ways to, I guess, allow them to be as expressive as they possibly could be about whatever issues they may have with another person, uh,
Mhm.
and just to be able to mind those things out. So yeah, it's not something that I came up with just over 2 days a week or so. It's some things like this. It just happens over time, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
being able to share it is cool with me. It's cool.
Yeah. Now, one thing you mentioned, parents and older people. One thing that's been on my mind as of late, and I don't know if you've noticed it. I don't know if it's a new thing or it's just something that goes with the territory. That I find that communication is becoming even harder with older folks. Now,
Mhm.
we're supposed to be the ones who's supposed to be growing in wisdom and knowing, having some common sense and knowing some things. But I'm finding it even difficult to communicate even with some older folks
Mhm.
on certain subjects or whatever. I mean, we all, we had dads, and it maybe got to a point where you can't talk to dad. Like, once a person gets sort of set in their ways and fixed on certain
Mhm.
things, and it doesn't matter if you got the facts and the figures and the statistics and the data and all that stuff. And sometimes it feels like you're talking to a wall. So I just find oftentimes with older people, they're the ones who oftentimes are the harder ones to talk to. I also find that they're the most impatient people. And again, they
Mhm.
say like patience and wisdom, all these are supposed to be virtues that we're supposed to see and model in older people. But sometimes I see in older people an immaturity that makes it just as difficult as if I'm dealing with one of the teenagers that you were talking about you work with over the years. So why do you think that is? Is this something that you're seeing that's a new thing, or is you see it's growing where there's just a level of entitlement or impatience in older people, where you would hope there would be, we grown people, we should be able to have a grown conversation, but even those conversations sometimes get difficult to have.
Man, that's interesting because when as you was making a statement about the question and the topic is that I always think about me in communication with my friends, and how when we were around their parents or any adults, we sort of we sort of channeled our language per se. It
Mhm.
wasn't just blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Like you would do. You just in a group of teenagers just doing teenage stuff. So we sort
Mhm.
of channeled that, but also those individuals, those parents, whatever, they they sort of check the language in a sense.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
somebody might say a cuss word, but hey,
Yeah.
don't speak like that around me.
Right.
We
Right.
sort
Right.
of gave them that respect
Right.
and moved accordingly, or we
Right.
just moved on, so where nobody could hear us in that regard. And being a part of that always made me think about when I go into a room with people, the last thing I want them to do is hear me being loud. I'm always thinking about when I meet new people, especially people outside of my peer group,
Mhm.
it's yes, sir,
Yep.
yes, ma'am, no,
Yep.
ma'am,
Yep.
and it's not, and their perspective doesn't hurt or harm me. You know what I'm saying? Because I look at it like I want to get to their age. So there's things that they've experienced that I haven't gotten to yet.
Mm.
Or we may have experienced them the same, and I may have had a different perspective, a different outcome, different results. So I just embrace it as it is. And I think looking at as from a Gen X perspective, it puts us in a catch 22.
Mhm.
We saw the evolution of where we are today from the grassroots. We was using keyboards, typing. I went from typing, then we had
Yeah.
the little processor.
Yeah.
We had shop. We had these courses in school that would allow you to think past the regular traditional sit behind the desk, read, write, you know what I'm saying? Because we had to figure out how to make products. Home ec class was one of my favorite
Yep.
classes.
Yep.
I learned how to sew. When I learned how to sew, man, everything that had a hole in it that week,
That
I
was it.
sewed it up.
Yep.
When I
Absolutely.
learned how to make a full course meal, I was coming home cooking breakfast, making some green beans, some corn. I was doing all of that of what I was being taught. And it also, as I got older, now I know. So you younger than me, what can you tell me? But when I started, and I've always done it, but when I started really working with youth who had some sort of emotional disconnect, some issue, I had to step outside of my feelings about it.
Mhm.
I had to, whatever my opinions were, I had to be able to communicate on a level to where not only do they hear me, they understand me, they listen to me, and they want to come back for more. I think of all the things I did, I think that was my greatest gift to where I can meet somebody in probably their lowest point, and within a few weeks of interaction, I've communicated so much about despite what's happened, you still have opportunity to elevate, to be in a
Mhm.
better space. You just have to
Yep.
be willing to endure the time. And in that time, you can't be stagnant. You have to learn, you have to move, you have to practice certain things and concepts and techniques so you can be better and move out of that bad space. And when you get to that space, this is another thing I used to always tell students, because I get students, Brother Bennett, they sitting right here next to me, get desktop. We going over GPA. I pull up a transcript. Boom. Might have 4 Ds, 2 Fs,
Mhm.
and this is a sophomore year. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm looking at it, so I'm breaking it down. When they get to see their GPA, a light bulb will come on because they were like, "Oh man, my GPA is below a 2." Okay, I tell you what, you smart enough to make A's and B's. I know this. However, let's just work on getting you to a 2. You got D's and F's. Let's get your D's to a C, get your
Yep.
F to a D. You're
Yep.
not failing. You're
Yep.
passing, but it lets you know you can be better.
Mhm.
I used to go deep. You're not a dummy, are you? No, I ain't dumb. Well, we're gonna get rid of all these D's. You're not a failure, are you? No. Well, F means failure. You're not a failure. So between now and the end of the grading period, can you work on getting your work done, being more attentive in class? Let the teacher get her 30 minutes of instruction, and then you want to talk about the game or whatever. Do your work first, and then you can spend time. Because now the teacher can't say anything. Hey, be quiet. You finished your work. You're not creating distractions. Because by the time you look up, most time, you're working to the bell ring, like, okay, so now you seeing the process. And I used to always tell people that came into this field, step outside of your opinions about it, your feelings about it, so you can communicate and articulate the right message. And it's not about do as I say, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't know how to do what you say.
Right.
It's up to me to let me show you from step 1 to step 2, step 3. You might even figure out step 4, 5, and 6 because we went into detail about step 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I was get those breakthroughs early. And man, brother Bennett, I ain't gonna lie, man. It used to just be a present to me. I would just always have boxes of Kleenex. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 boxes stacked up. As soon as the kids sit down, I just hand them 2.
Mm-hmm.
What you giving me that for, Mr. Ferry? I don't need it. Yes, y'all. Halfway, they crying because once they release it, man, it's the change used to be so beautiful.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha.
beautiful, man. I do have to add a little bit more, but I just want to stop right there.
I got you. Yeah, let's get into this thing a little bit.
Yes,
so again, if in back, if we can see the D.E.E.P slides, not the pies, but you can go straight to the D.E.E.P.
Yes, sir.
So again, this technique, again, a communication technique used in interacting with narcissists and toxic people. And just before the show, maybe about 15 minutes before the show, I thought I wanted to go a little bit into defining narcissism, because this is a term that we've been hearing over the last 10, 15 years. Maybe people didn't know how to identify it earlier and whatnot, but I want to talk about what we're talking about, because I think that'll help also better in the use of technique. A lot of times you have to know who you're dealing with, and a lot of times you get into the ring, you get into the mud with the pig. And the only thing that can really happen is a lot of times you just get dirty yourself because you got in there with the pig. But a lot of times you can avoid some of this stuff if you know, again, who you're dealing with. I think knowing your audience will help you better employ what we're going to be talking about tonight. So again, what is narcissism? So again, a grandiose sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Now it says empathy. That don't mean you have to have sympathy, that you have to feel how someone feels. But can you at least say, look, I understand where someone's coming from? Or is it all about you and your needs and your feelings at the time? So again, some other characteristics of it, again, overestimate their own abilities, crave attention and admiration, lack the ability to connect with others emotionally. So those are times. And then there's also 4 types. And again, we're not going to get into these. We're not going to define all these tonight for the show. But there's different levels of narcissists. So again, you have your grandiose and your malignant. Those are the big talkers, the big, the big guys always out there with stuff. But then you have some people who are narcissists on the down low. So oftentimes they can be very self-deprecating in a sense to kind of say, look, woe is me, again, in order to, again, garner attention. But at the root of it, it's all about the same thing. Look at me. Either I'm doing good or I'm doing bad. People pay attention to me one way or another. But at the end of the day, it's like the world centers around you, and you don't have any patience or tolerance for what other people may be going through. And then oftentimes the narcissist, they may ask themselves, well, why don't people, you get upset when people don't give you the validation that you think you deserve. And so these are things is just to watch out for. And again, you're seeing it, at least it's being identified. with a lot of, again, young people. If you're on social media, people, again, craving that attention, craving that validation from other people. But I'm also seeing, as in my earlier point, I'm also starting to see more of this again in older individuals, where again, people, there's a lack of empathy or respect. You see the degradation in conversation between grown people, when there used to be, as Coach said earlier, there used to be a respect level in a conversation. So I'm seeing it at all ages. It's not just a young people's thing. I'm seeing it with older people, but the idea of having a lack of the ability to focus or think about something other than your own needs and interests. So again, oftentimes we have these people. Again, I got daughters, and each one of them to some degree has a certain level of it. I don't know your son. I don't know if he has it, but I see it up
Nah, he's
close.
more humble. He's definitely not.
That's good. Well, you good then. But
He ain't like I was. He's
oh, so you were the narcissist?
I don't.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I really can't say because I was always the kid that would help the other kid.
Hmm.
I was always that guy since I wish I could bring. Now these guys are in their 50s, late 40s, and when they were kids, I was just a teenager. I'm sure, like I said, I'm showing them how to hold the football, throw the football, and I understood my abilities and talents.
Hmm.
When I was involved in it, I didn't speak like, yeah, I can take you down, I can beat you. I just let my participation do the talking. Now I'm
Gotcha.
old, you know
Gotcha.
what I'm saying?
Now,
So
see,
yeah,
here's the trick though, because like I said, the ones, the grandiose and the malignant, those are the easy ones to spot.
yeah,
The ones that are hard to spot are the vulnerable and the communal, because on the surface, as it looks, they look very selfish in their actions.
mm,
But the reason why they do it may be different. It's not just for the benefit of other people. You
mm-hmm.
may do a good deed for somebody because you want a pat on the back. And
Yeah,
so a lot of
you're right.
times that you can't necessarily see it up close, because say, hey, that person's so nice or they did a great thing or whatever, but they live off of the validation of saying you're a nice person.
Yeah,
So again, sometimes that can also be part of it as well. And I'm not saying, sometimes you or I, for that matter. I'm just saying
yeah,
that
I ain't
these are
looking
things
up.
that we need to be able to recognize, because again, when we have to talk to some of these people, that they might be exhibiting narcissism, but not in a way that we most recognize it to be. And so these are things that need to be mindful of. So again, so when we get into the technique of deep, we'll start with the first one. The D is the first one. Then the D means, again, don't defend. Do not
Defend.
defend your truth and perspective. Do not spend your efforts trying to convince someone who does not want to understand you. So again, a narcissist or someone who has that kind of tendency, it's all about you trying to understand them. But then they'll try to turn on you like everything's like, sometimes you may see even within relationships, sometimes the person says it's always your fault, or or you're not the, you're to blame in the situation. So so speak on this from your experience. How do you take this first one in terms of not defending yourself? And this is something I think I've learned certainly in recent years, because I was very much, I used to love debate, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just not a huge debater anymore. I'll state my opinions, but I'm not so inclined to try to convince someone anymore that
Mm-hmm.
I'm right.
Yeah,
And I think I start to favor more peace
yeah.
than trying to be right. But talk about this from your perspective. How do you see this first one? Don't defend.
I mean, you gave a great perspective. You know what I'm saying? I've been a person that would state my opinion, but again, I'm not gonna spend time going back and forth, defending a point. If especially if I know that it's true and I've seen the examples, then I'll just maybe share the example or the experience and leave it at that. I don't expect everybody to vibe with whatever perspective that I give, because I'm not, again, I don't look at things from a feelings based point of view. I try to leave my feelings out of world issues, when I'm talking to people amongst the world, I dismiss my feelings.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? My feelings go to my wife, my children, my son, something like that. But it like you can have a different perspective, different opinion, and that could be your truth. And to argue with me, to me, trying to argue with you about your truth and vice versa, it makes no sense to me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
think that what really helps me is that I try to just live my life in my truth, no matter how ugly it is. I've
Right.
had to face that ugly.
Right.
And the earlier I faced it, the better results I've had. And facing a lot of times myself was the ugly.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
dealing with that in some perspective and being truthful to myself so I can be in a more lax state of mind, you know what I'm saying, to be a little bit more, I guess, open to continue to try to build that process. But yeah, man, and again, I don't try to convince people from
Mhm.
my perspective, man, because
Yeah.
I just throw it out there. Hopefully, somebody can grab it and hold it and maybe use it later. And this is
Mhm.
one thing I've also learned, because just in being around yourself, Brother Payne, in a sense that I may not have had that experience today that you may have had last year, but I put those type of things in my tool belt. So if I ever have to come across that experience, I can call on somebody else went through this and they did this to get out of it. So let me
Yeah.
just use it and not be so much going back and forth and all of that. YouTube is a great place to practice
Yeah.
any technique that you're trying to get better, because you
Right.
will be challenged on it. So
Yeah, yeah. The only exception I may have to this, again, there's certain discussions that need to be had. Now, again, I will not run away from a discussion, especially when a decision has to be made. So if me and my wife, again, I am, the head, so to speak, if you want to
yeah,
call me that, or whatever in the household. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that there aren't points where things have to be discussed, and
for sure.
it's better when we can kind of be of one mind on something. And certainly, if it's on me to try to convey that, then I do my best to convey it. It's not just, look, we doing this and that's it, and close the door and be done with it. No, it's like, certainly you want people to want to be on the ride with you. And so being effective in your communication is important. But the key to this here, again, when it says trying to convince someone who does not want to understand. So don't confuse that also. People may get off center because, again, you're talking past each other. It's not that there's not a desire to understand. You're just, the communication is off a little bit. You may have to pull it back. You may have to listen and stop over talking. Let the person make their point, and then you can come back and challenge or ask questions or follow up or what have you afterwards. But that's amongst willing individuals. But I'm just learning in certainly in these last couple years, there's people who on a lot of issues, religious issues, politics, or whatever. There's just some people who are just dug in, and those people, you just realize over time, I can't have a decent conversation, because it's almost like we see in the world in two different things. You see the sky is blue, and I see it as gray, or black, or purple, or something. I mean, we so again, so some of those relationships I've had to kind of pull back on a little bit,
For sure.
because I just know that it's just not going to be, within 5 minutes, we going to get into it. Now, again, when I was a younger man, I was like, bring it on. I can do this all day. Now I'm to the point where I don't want to do this all day.
Hmm.
I don't even want to do it for an hour. So again, I've been more judicious in the conversations that I'm in. In fact, there was a scripture that I pulled from. I think it's Ephesians chapter 5. I think it's verse 23. Is Paul talk about don't participate in unfruitful conversation. I don't mind getting into a conversation if I think there's some fruit that can be bad, uh, um, uh, 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 brought from it.
Hmm.
Better outcome, better understanding, an action plan, a go-to plan. Okay, now we got it. Let's go. with something. If I think it's fruitful, then of course I will participate. But these days, I can see coming in. This person's they're on their stuff. They're on their platform. I ain't gonna shake them. And again, even with my dad back in the day, he had certain just views that of the world and how things work and whatnot. And I'm as a kid, I'm a teenager trying to have a conversation with him. And it just got down to, boy, you don't know F what's going on. You don't know ish. You don't know this or that or whatever. And so we just never could really get that going because it was just hard to have. The only thing we could really talk about is sports. But when it came to like life stuff or where the world is going, music, whatever it was, it's just, certain conversations did need to be had, but we would just spend hours and the frustration and the stress. Now, again, I was a young man. Now I'm very cognizant of my stress levels at this point. And I'm just seeing, if I see a conversation just going south, and you even see me on some platforms, conversation goes south, I'm like, I'm out of here, guys. You guys have a good night, because there's no good that can come from this. All that come from this is hurt feelings,
For sure.
and I just don't have time for that kind of disrespect anymore. Like I said, we supposed to be the grown ones having a conversation, and we can't show each other a certain modicum of respect how we address one another. And we doing this on live, so it's easier to do it on this YouTube streets also. Now, if we were in person, now some guys even in the barbershop, something else. Some guy, if it gets too far, then folks gonna knuckle up or be like, all right, get out that chair.
It's gonna be some furniture moving.
There's gonna be
some, for sure.
But in this virtual space, you can be as bold as you want to be.
Yes.
And you can spend as much time on the keyboard as you can in a conversation with someone in person or what have you. So again, be very cognizant of your time. But I think knowing who you're dealing with, again, this isn't for everyone. Especially say you got your wife, you got your kids, you won't have to talk to them or try, your best if you want the thing to last. You can't just go in your own direction there. But if you talk about individuals who are toxic, those who some people just want it, just like from that line from Batman, that was The Dark Knight. So some people just want to see the world burn.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to recognize those individuals and be like, nah, this isn't fruitful. Have a nice day, and then move on with stuff. But let's go on to the next one. Let's go to the E. Don't engage.
There you go.
Do not engage in narcissistic manipulation. Be brief when sharing information and facts. What's your thoughts on this one, Coach?
I mean, I like this one, right? Because I think I struggle with this the most. I do. I think I struggle with this the most, right? Only because I know sometimes I can be a little long-winded and divert from the initial topic because it's just so much that needs to be sort of ironed out today in our socialization of each other. I just always never can get out of my head that when I used to go outside, everybody was outside. Every little group and clique based off age was outside communicating and being allowed to express their feelings or their thoughts or opinions about topics. Me and my buddies, we talking sports, everybody has their team, everybody got their favorites. Yep. And I remember we used to be able to talk those things out, and we'd all be like, okay, well, we agree to disagree. You know what I'm saying? And leave it at that. But it wasn't getting to a space where somebody's trying to bully their thought or their opinion on everybody else. And everybody else is like, that shit wrong. But it's just a different time, man. And you're right, man. That's why my message is always the same, man. I don't know, man. I don't really know too many people who move around in a narcissist mindset. Like YouTube, was everybody on YouTube was make $100,000 a year, do all this. Everybody, man. I don't care who it is, man. Everybody make $100,000. And so, I think sometimes, just to get a point across or just to feel or believe that you're part of it, then sometime, you know, we may go too long or, you know, just say too much. And I know I do. I know I'm a victim.
Mhm.
Guilty of it because I'm a just based off what I hear in the topics and like videos that people watch. Sometimes I just think a lot of it can be avoided, especially I learn off of watching others and
Mhm.
other
Same here.
experiences. I don't
Same
have
here.
to, if I see some crazy stuff that people are actually going through and talk, I know that I can't handle stuff like that. So I'll avoid it altogether. You know, I won't let that attach to me. I've seen it before. Cool. Let it stay over there. Especially now, I'm too old to be trying to go back and forth with somebody who's 10 years younger than me, still smelling like pee and
10
shit.
years,
You know what I'm saying?
20 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
40.
So, you know, but I respect their viewpoint, their opinion,
Sure.
and I'm not gonna, you know, beat them over the head trying to love. He's okay. At the end of the day, that's the way you feel. That's what you believe. So you have to live that out, not
Mhm.
me. You know.
Yeah.
So I'll just
Yeah, I
leave
hear
it
you.
there.
I got you. Yeah, for me, it's two things from this that I'm getting. Um, Again, narcissists, I think they're driven by emotions, and therefore how they engage is to elicit an emotional response. And so a lot of times you have to be mindful of that when
Yeah, that's
again
for
be
sure.
brief and sharing information and facts. They want to get you on the carpet with the emotional end.
Mm-hmm.
They shake you out of your place when you know you're standing on firm ground. And if they can get you talking in an emotional way or whatever, then bump the facts. Like the facts don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it doesn't matter. All the stat I can show you all the stuff's going on. I don't care. And it's just, you know, and so then they get you and get into your emotions because you're frustrated because you have the information. It's right here.
Mm-hmm.
But they love living in that space where they can get you emotionally. So again, they play on your emotions. They want to
Mm-hmm.
elicit out of you because they say the opposite of love is not hate. They say the opposite of love is a lack of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't care. And so the belief is if I can get you emotional, then I got you caring about something that maybe you shouldn't be caring that much about. And so you have to be mindful of that. And secondly, you got to be mindful of the people who play this game the best. So again, I talked about there was 4 narcissists, types of narcissists out there. The ones that play this game the best are the ones who are the vulnerable ones and the communal ones. Because again, those are the nice ones. Those are the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones who are easily offended by what you said, even if it was true.
Mm-hmm.
You hurt my feelings
Mm-hmm.
and you got me in my feelings. And how they get back at you by getting you into your feelings. So you have to be mindful of that manipulation also. They can get you going in so many the crocodile tears. Soon as you start, in fact, I got I admit I got a daughter's like this.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I start dropping facts, she
Mm-hmm.
starts to cry. I'm like, that I'm not telling her that's not fair. That ain't fair. Fight
Right.
fair.
Right.
If you go,
Right.
but she go once we start. My wife and I said once we start breaking down the real, like this is what's going to talk and the cost, and this are the numbers and the monthly cost. It's going to cost this and the breakdown of budget and all that. And she just
Mm-hmm.
starts breaking down,
Mm.
and I'm like, that's not fair.
Mm.
And then sometimes I even go and say, all right, I want to talk to you, right? But are you going to fight fair? We're just going to talk. We're not going to raise voices. We're not going to go into these emo places. If you can't do that, then we don't need to engage. But don't pull the tears out when all I've been doing is I'm just sharing. This is what it. I didn't make it up. It's not my
Right.
game. It's not my rules. So you got to be mindful of that as well when people try to use emotion.
Yes.
That's that manipulation. Like I said, the big guys, the big talkers or whatever, more times than not, those guys are easier to tune out. They just talking.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that's like, oh, come here, give me, oh, let me give you a hug. Let me give you a, let me play into this this thing, or you just decide, oh, okay, all right, we'll do it. We'll do what you want here this time or whatever. And I could come down hard, but nah, I'm not going to do it. So again, you got to be mindful of that tactic that's being used. So again, I'm not saying there's not a time to engage, just like the first one. There's not a time to go in and debate or whatever. There's times for that, but you also have to be able to recognize when you're getting played, and then also know when to pull back from that. So the next E, don't explain. Do not explain yourself to the narcissist. Protect your peace by not going into heavy discussions with someone, and here's the key, who does not have the willingness to see a world outside of them. Again, it's not to say that, again, I was real big. The thing that ticked me off the most when I was younger is not being understood. Like I put a lot of thought a lot of times into my conversation. And when somebody was like, I still don't understand, that used to bug me to no end. And I would used to keep going on and going on and going on. But then again, I had to realize over time, it was just a tool of manipulation. It wasn't about that they didn't understand. They just didn't care. And they just wanted to see me get worked up over the fact that, how many times I got to explain this to you? So that's always been one of my weak points, Coach, is wanting to be understood, wanting to be right, have my language down. If I did a presentation or something like that, I put a lot of work into writing and rewriting and expressing myself and whatnot. And someone just says, "Oh, I don't understand that," and I'm looking at you like, "Am I the only one?" So that's always been my kryptonite to a degree. When I can't get past that. But again, in my older age, I'm learning to pull back a little bit and not be such in a rush to, okay, you got to understand everything that I'm saying. If anything, it's just important that I've said what I had to say, and then I just leave it there. So what's your thoughts on that?
No, so Brother Ben, the question I want to ask you is, at what age or what time in your life when you started to make that shift in this E?
Honestly, it's fairly recent.
Okay.
I said I'm going to be 56 this year. You talking about I had this kind of energy through my early 40s.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because that was just always something that was just important to me. You know, and it didn't matter who it was.
Right.
That if a person, you're going to fight back, or you're going to say I don't understand, or they don't care or whatever. Again, I was going to make you care.
Okay.
By any means necessary, or make you understand by any means necessary. Is that no? You ain't leaving. Look, if I'm fighting with a girlfriend back in the day, it was like, no, I ain't hanging up the phone. No, don't hang up on me. I'm like, nah, we ain't ended like that.
Right.
So that was just always a thing. Like I needed to, I guess in my way, that might have been my own narcissism. Like I needed to be validated. I need to, the best thing somebody could tell me, I got you. I get it. I understand. I had a meeting today where I had to work with some new new consultants that came on. I had to explain some processes to them. And again, I would explain some things. I would break things down. And then they would come back with a question, or they thought they understood something. I was like, and I had to correct them and says, no, the reason it works like this. And then I would ask, do you understand? But again, I'm in a position where I have to explain.
Right.
Or I have to be understood, because these guys are going to operate off of my work or off of my understanding of the process. So that's something I can't get away from. I can't say to these new hires to say, look, I explained it to you already. You guys can't figure it out, then it's on you. No, that's going to come back on me if the product that they produce off the information that I give is not correct.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm not, so for any of these, I'm not saying there's not opportune times when you have to do these things. You do have to explain. But again, the key is, again, the last part of the statement. With someone who does not have the willingness to see outside, to see a world outside of them. Those are the ones you got to watch for. And but I'll explain if someone's willing, or if it's just a matter of understanding. Someone's a slow learner.
Mm-hmm.
I'll spend all the time in the world just to make sure you get it understand. No problem. But there's just some who are just like, I just don't have time to understand this. I don't want to. And then it's like I'm beating my head against the wall trying to get you to understand what's going on, and I'm wasting my time. But a younger version of me didn't. There was no time limit. I'd be on the phone with guys 4 or 5. It's like 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We've been arguing since 8 p.m.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. That's draining to me, so, it's just interesting, so I don't think I explain a lot to I would just say the adults. That's why I sort of always mention in age and things like that. I don't do a lot of explaining to adults. And on YouTube, I don't do a lot of explaining for a lot of it because they're adults. You know what I'm saying? You know exactly what you're doing at this point in your life. Most of us know exactly who we are and exactly what we're doing.
Right.
So when I'm working with people who may be at a disadvantage or younger, I explain a lot. I break it all the way down. I do. I've always, once I learned this concept in the military, I never left it. What they do is, that's why basic training, it sort of strips you of your identity. They shave your hair off, your mustache, your beard. Everybody's clean shaven from the jump, right? And then everything that they show you is from the step 1 to step Z.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever you have a malfunction, they'll go back and train you more.
Right.
So you can go on from step A to Z. And just when I know that I'm working with people, maybe for the first time or whatever their situation is, to get them to be in a better space, then I do it sort of reverse. I don't explain first. I just say what needs to be said as far as the strategy, and then I explain why this strategy is important.
Yeah.
Because because people always, they're like, well, it may or may not apply to them at the time, and it may be some information that they try not to divulge. So I just say, hey, I'm going to give you this information, hold on to it, and then I can explain to you why. Because there's certain outcomes, positive and negative, that you will get if I don't explain it correctly. And my goal is to make sure that I explain it to you well enough to where when you leave me, you can hear what I said.
Yeah.
You leave me, you can go out and practice what we talked about. So when I come back to you or you come back to me, then you can relay to me what worked, what didn't work, things that you thought of that can make it better going forward. So then that way you're just building on top of that process. So yeah.
Gotcha. But like I said, in that situation though, but you are also at the same time, you're being held accountable for the outcomes.
Yes.
See, that's a different scenario. Now, again, there might be a point in time, and certainly I think we probably dealt with this in our careers, that just some people just don't get it.
Yeah, some people.
And some of those people, you got to cut them. It's like I bring somebody on, and I'm going through this, and we've been through it several times. And then, especially in corporate, there's a process.
Yes,
you may have to get HR involved. You may have to get this involved. Try to make as many accommodations as possible. But it gets to a point where you have to cut your losses. Yes. And so therefore, so again, that's the person that person doesn't have the desire to understand, don't want to understand, but they just, they kind of playing dumb. And it gets to a point where, look, if you don't get this within a certain period of time, because again, especially once you get on the payroll, we're paying you to, obviously there's got to be a learning curve. You got to be patient with some stuff. But at what point does it get to a point where this person just doesn't get it? and then you're going to have to look to move on from that person, release them for either poor job performance, whatever it is. That person may have to you may have to work with somebody else who just doesn't have it. It happens on football teams. You can coach a guy all you want to, but if he does that, if he can't produce, either he's not going to get playing time, or you got to cut him. I mean, it's so again, there's only so much of that you can do. And I've had coaches where it's like, look, I'm explaining this once.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't get it, it's on you.
It's on you.
Because I'm going to explain once. It's up to you. Just like in martial arts, same thing. Martial arts, they may teach you one thing. It's up to you to go home. Don't come back the next day thinking we're going to pick up where you left off. The idea was when you learn that thing, you went home, you practiced that thing half the night so that when you come back into the dojo,
we can move on.
We got it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that's going to be on you. So again, there's certain times when you're going to have to explain some things, but there's got to be a cutoff. And again, knowing certainly when you're talking about a narcissist, you better know who you're dealing with and when to cut it off, because they will definitely drain a lot of energy from you. The last part of the deep technique, the P, don't personalize. Do not personalize the narcissistic behaviors. The narcissistic responses and behaviors are all about them. Since it is their issue, leave it with them. This is what I was talking about before. Oftentimes, what the narcissist wants from you is the engagement on their level. Mm-hmm. So if they're emotional, they want you to be emotional. And you can get caught up in the emotion. Like I said, the facts, data, statistics, whatever that should end the argument, that's not what they want. They want you on their side in one way or another. And you start acting out and reacting the way they act. I mean, you see it sometimes even in the culture today with a lot of these influencers. You got people who are like, of a certain personality, they start following this influencer or figure or whatever, and they just start acting out. Now we look back in the day, we all had our heroes. We all had the people we looked up to, and we wanted to, dress like them. Our favorite basketball player or football player, we wore the same shoes they did, the certain swag they might have had or whatever. But and when Deion Sanders came out, everybody thought they were prime, and everybody was doing their dance after a play or something like that. And everybody just started to model and emulate it. But again, a lot of times the narcissist, again, when you model what they do, again, it's another form of validation. And you got to make sure that you keep your cool in the engagement. And again, for a lot of people I've seen in recent years, respectable people that I thought I knew and understood, they just sort of like, what happened to you? I don't know if they were in Fight Club too long or whatever. I don't know what happened. But just people just went just off the rails. Mm-hmm. And what some people call radicalized to an extent over certain issues or whatever it was. So what's your thoughts on this, on this one here? But like I said, I certainly have found myself the victim, so to speak, of getting personal with some stuff when it didn't need to be personal. And again, you see the degradation in the conversation. People start name calling, F you this, your mama that, whatever it is. But again, this is a trap that you can get yourself into. So again, your thoughts on this last one as we summarize the technique.
I've never really, I guess prior to YouTube and, when you in a lot of discussions and topics and going through on YouTube, prior to that, I never really sort of personalized statements. I would always keep it general. I never identified somebody to say, this is, unless I was having a direct conversation with them, and it was a private conversation based off my experience and something that they may be doing that I may not be kosher with and things like that. I would say, man, this is what you're doing, or that's not me, and but uh, I don't know, man. That's the one thing I used to always try to help people say. I mean, to get past, don't personalize a lot of, don't allow things to stick to you that don't apply.
Mm.
That's what I used to say. Don't allow it to stick to you. You can make a statement about, yeah, light skinned man or this and that. However, I'm not what you describe, so I don't have to personalize it, and I don't
Yeah.
have to go back. That's your opinion about your experience. Cool. I can't change it. You done already had the experience, so it's just the way it is. I just try to give you my experience, so then you can judge me based off me,
Right.
not everyone else in general.
Right.
And so I allow people to deal with their issues. It's your issue. I'm not going to take on somebody else's issue and stress out over something somebody else like or don't like. I never been a person that want to please people just because they feel a certain way about it.
Yeah.
And, but being married has helped me sort of, I guess, have a little bit more empathy for other people outside of myself, just day to day.
Yeah.
Being in the marriage, you're in a tight space. The house seems big, but it's tight. You know what I'm saying? And it's not. And one thing me and my wife vowed to do is not to go to bed angry.
Yeah.
And we've been doing pretty good holding on to that.
Yeah.
We might go today, 2 hours and just looking at each other and, but we still got to go to sleep and we have to talk it out. And then I think it allows both of us to sort of get control of our emotions about the topic. And because I might think through some 4, 5, 6 times, like, and then when I get in the conversation, everything I just thought of wouldn't even come to the front because I'm trying to work the issue. And so, yeah, I would always suggest that anybody just, people are going to have their opinions, their feelings, their beliefs or whatever. And if it doesn't apply to you, don't let it stick. Sometimes just act like it just went straight over your head, especially if it's a group. Like you're not talking about me, so sometimes there's no need to engage. But it's just, again, on YouTube, man, everybody again wants to be right. Everybody knows the answer, and nobody's getting the results based off the answer. So,
and again, the level of just the personal attacks on people.
Yes.
I mean, calling for a guy throwing the gay slur around or something like that.
Wild.
Oh, you must be gay. You must be this or that. Yeah. Wives getting attacked or families getting attacked. I mean, that was stuff that was just so off-putting for people who, again, just did not want to deal in reality or didn't want to, again, deal with what was said, more so what they felt from what was said, and then they react and say things that should not be said.
Yeah.
And again, there were just certain things that were just off limits.
For sure.
For sure. And then a lot of those lines got crossed. And it just became like, whoa. So again, certainly being with those. Now, Coach, you got married, your current wife, you got married after 40, right?
Yes.
Was it after 40?
45.
45. Okay, so you had a little more wisdom. Now, again, I had to work something you talked about and the not going to bed angry stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It took us decades to get through that.
Yeah.
We would have cold wars that would last 2, sometimes 3 weeks.
Wow.
Cold war.
Okay.
Now, again, we've worked on it over time. So it went from weeks to days and now from days to hours. So we're in the hours. We're kind of getting to kind of where you're at. Well, we got married a little bit younger, a little bit dumber. Yeah, and again, neither one of us, I wouldn't say we were necessarily prepared. I had my reasons for getting married. I just wanted the cookie, man. I've been 100. I've always been 100 about that.
Yeah.
So so there was some things I had to learn along the way, and
Hmm.
again, how to deal with my own emotions, and be able to act rationally, and again, not let throw oil or gas on the embers that might be burning. How to cool off,
For sure.
and how to um talk without getting amped up or whatever, or giving the space for which, hey, you know what, it just got to a point, I don't want to do this no more.
Okay.
Not the marriage. I'm saying I don't want to be in this space anymore. Let's squash this.
Right. Right. Right.
And the one thing with me and my wife, even though we're very different people, we both have a stubborn side to us.
Mm.
It's the
Mhm.
irresistible defense and the immovable object.
Mm.
And it's like neither one of us want to budge or give. We're gonna stand on our square on some stuff. And it got to a point where it's like, you know what? I just want peace. I just want to get back to just us being us and whatnot, and let's put away a lot of this stuff. So it was definitely something we had to grow into.
Hmm.
But so again, it happens in marriages, it happens in like I said, your work, your school, whatever it is. These things that come up, and like I said, the idea that you have older people who are still having challenges in this space is certainly something that I would think that you would get past, but you got to work on these things. Like I said, on any level. So we're going to talk to a 12-year-old or 50, 60-year-old. These things are principles that work, and you need to put that all together. So just to summarize for tonight, and so certainly again. So again, the deep technique: don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. When you're dealing with a person who is a narcissist
Hmm.
or someone who just wants to muddy the waters, they don't want progress. They just want all the attention to be on them
Hmm.
and to bring you down with them. So these are techniques, but again, recognize, as we said earlier, recognize the signs and the behaviors. So let's go back to page 1. Recognize the signs and behaviors of narcissism. What's really behind what's driving these people? And again, there's 4 types of narcissism, and you got to be sure that you recognize which one you're dealing with. Like I said, the grandiose and the malignant, you could kind of spot those pretty easily.
Hmm.
But the vulnerable and communal ones, those are the ones that they're like the Sith Lords. They operate in the shadows and whatnot. And they don't expose themselves later on. And by the time you figure it out or whatnot, it could be too late. But you just need to be mindful of these types and be able to and be able to deal with these sort of individuals effectively. Don't let them destroy your peace. Don't let them get into your head and occupy space that they don't deserve, and be able to get on with the things that you need to be about. And some things you just need to pull away from. So again, even with my daughters, certainly my oldest daughter, the last couple years she's been doing a pullback because she has a ton of narcissists in her friendship group that go all the way back to high school.
Mm.
And a lot of that stuff was same, even as grown women now, they still dealing with issues that I thought you dealt with in high school. But even leading up even to the wedding that just took place. And I told her, it's like, after this wedding's over, you may need to take a break. I mean, you're about to go out the country anyway.
Hmm.
So this might be the perfect time for you to just do a reset on everything and everyone and reevaluate who do you need in your life and who you don't need in your life at this particular time. Let those who are, they're moving on with things and whatnot, let them go off and do their thing. You be about your thing and not be so caught up in the drama that everybody else is dealing with.
For sure.
And
That's so
so,
true right there.
yeah, so yeah, those are just things that, again, I'm in a fortunate place in that I'm able to not only experience some of this in terms of my own personal growth, but also being able to see my girls go through that and seeing their struggles with this, both of having narcissistic tendencies as well as dealing with even highly more easily recognizable grandiose and malignant narcissists, and helping them to, kind of cope and how to deal with these personality traits. And so if we can, certainly if this could be a benefit, so we're going to ask certainly for those who are with us tonight, make sure you share this content with some people who could benefit from it.
Sure.
If I have a narcissist at work or whatnot, again, read this and recognize the signs. Mariana, she was talking about earlier, she knows a couple people at her workplace that exhibit these kind of tendencies. Recognize that so that now you're better off in terms of how to deal with them. And with that, certainly, I think that's also, I would say that's my closing thoughts on the show tonight. So, Coach, you want to wrap this up, and if our able producer in the back, if he wants to come up briefly, just to kind of chime in to get it, put his 2 cents on the matter, he can. But watch we got a time limit tonight, so we're not going into the after show tonight.
Right.
But certainly, Pete, you're certainly more than welcome to call. But Coach, your final thoughts on this topic?
No, man. It's a great topic, man. Like you said, man, it's a great learning tool to apply to your life, and you may be able to apply it to people that you know personally, close to you. Excuse me. And just, if anything, have the conversations and, just use the information to sort of just process them through and talk them through, but just have the conversation. And it doesn't have to be, gender specific. Anyone that you may know who's in your circle that needs to have these type of conversations, man, just let this video do the talking for you. Let you know what I'm saying, because then they would have to be able to explain based off what they see specifically, and not just going off the way you present it or your opinion about it. So yeah, man, every day to me is a deep thought, a deep process every day.
Indeed.
I try to pass it on to my wife. She's probably better at it than me, but again, man, salute to the topic, man. Salute to the platform, man. So yeah, I appreciate it all day, man.
Awesome.
Oh, really quick. This is
sir.
Men's Health Month.
Facts.
Fellas, get out here. I don't care how old you are, how cool you think you look, how you wear your hair slanted over to the left. Go get your checkups. Take care of yourself. Get your checkups. Get your checkups. Go to the doctor. Don't be a superhero, because you ain't gonna be no hero if you ain't here. So take care of yourself, man. Get these checkups so we can enjoy our summer and get ready for some football.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. The Ghost of Sparta, thank you for gracing us tonight. What's your thoughts on our topic tonight, and any closing thoughts before we
This is Sparta! Now you can talk.
On it. Okay. All right. Your thoughts, sir? Any closing thoughts and reflections on the show before we close out?
Actually, I do. I mentioned in the chat, I don't know if you saw, I said every chef I work with are like that mostly. I like to say every chef. I should rephrase that. 95% of chefs. I worked with 1 or 2. Chef Terrence and Chef Matt were not like that. Now I can name freaking Chef Mike, Chef David, no offense, Chef, I can go on and on for hours. Charlie, any of those guys, chefs, they had to be in control at all times. And if you, for example, if you put the hot water, you have to force, usually about 6, you have 6 top of stove. If you put the hot water in the back and they want it in the front, they will lose their shit. I see people throw shit. I mean, literally having a fucking, like a little kid tantrum, and like not doing it their way. Every chef, and I worked with Mariana, this guy named TJ, I'll call his fucking name out, I don't care. He, like, if he doesn't get his way, he will literally punch the wall. That's how bad he can get at times. I'm like, come on, dude, grow up. But way you guys broke it down, it makes sense. Like what you guys are saying. Like, I don't know whose idea was it. Was it yours or Trey's? It really doesn't matter.
I gotta give it to the coach.
Yeah.
He drops him up. I pretty him up a little bit, and put in a way we can break it down point by point. But he gives the root material, so I give all the credit to him.
Again, it really, it really doesn't matter who was the idea, who was it, but it's a great topic. Something that we don't really talk about as often as we need to. Think about it. How many people are control freaks, but we just say they're control freaks, but really they're Gnostics. They're not okay. They need some therapy, but they lose control when they are not in control.
Mhm.
Am I making sense here? What I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And it's not so and sometimes again, depending on the type of narcissist, it's not the control that you might be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so the attention than the control itself. It's what the control may possibly bring. So again, so to the grandiose narcissist, it could be okay, this sense of power. I can tell people what to do. But for the person who's more laid back, it's just the attention and just taking your time. So you got to be mindful of that. You got to be able to sort of recognize those people so that if you do have to communicate again things to avoid, so that again you don't get pulled down into the activity. If anything, you want to be able to lift people up out of a situation. Yeah, if you're down, I want to be able to pick you up. But I don't want to get so down with where you're at that I get dragged down. I'm start feeling stuff and I'm taking on your emotions. That wasn't even my deal.
And most people don't know this, but chef stands for teacher in French.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing as sensei stands for teacher in English. And I think chefs in America forget that. You're there if you want a good kitchen to run correctly, teach the person.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have those people they're unteachable. They don't want to learn. They're thinking they know everything walking through the doors.
Yeah. Well,
Those
again, yeah. Well, at one point I brought up earlier, I want to get your 2 cents on it. Certainly, as we get us going for a couple more minutes here. I talked about how it's unfortunately I'm seeing a lot of these sort of immature behaviors in older people.
Absolutely.
And what do you think is the reason why we're seeing more people who are supposed to be growing in wisdom and understanding, but acting just as childish as a 15-year-old, as a 16-year-old? I was talking about my daughter with her friends. They're like, it's 10 years later and y'all still dealing with high school stuff. Y'all supposed to be grown women and y'all still in high school with some of this stuff that's going on. And I said my daughters aren't necessarily in it, but she's around it. And so my thing is, look, you have to let some of these folks go, because they're gonna be in there trifling stuff, going back and forth, pulling you into stuff, picking sides, and this person, that person, and stuff. Is like, you don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to possibly change your friendship circle and get around some people that'll grow you more so than bringing you down into stuff. You got bigger and better ambitions to be worrying about, and you shouldn't be. And you shouldn't be, being pulled down. She coming to me crying, talking about, oh, she said this and that. It's like, so. But I find, even like I said, older adults, it's like nobody wants to be the grown up, and it's sad because a lot of younger people saying, "Well, why should we listen to you guys? Because you guys are just as immature in your conversation and what you're doing than the people who you're criticizing." So why is it? So why should we, as a young, if you're a millennial or whatever, why should we listen to you when we can't see in you the example of, again, at least how to communicate, how to have a respectful disagreement without getting personal and without getting, I mean, the fact that you have to post before every show, no personal attacks, no, I don't think that's meant for a bunch of 15-year-olds.
But we had these problems before.
Exactly. So what do you think? Why do you
Grown
think
ass
this
man,
is?
I think older than you, actually, Paul. No offense.
Yeah.
I think that the gentleman that came up here and throwing the racial slurs against women that day, and that I had enough of that fucking shit. And it was uncalled for. It was on my Spot Arena. It used to be on this day, on Thursday, and that was called. I don't remember what we were talking about that day, to be honest with you guys. But it went too far.
Mm.
Not only I felt I've offended to you, Paul, and I did apologize to you after, if you remember. And what you told me, I don't need to apologize to you because it wasn't my actions. I felt responsible because it is my show, it is my channel, I am the leader of this team. So as a leader, I took responsibility. So that's why on Thursday we don't drop the link anymore, because if people cannot be mature enough to come up respectfully, I don't care a little cursing here and there. That's fine. Like, I listen. Let's be honest. I don't have the cleanest mouth in the world. Not a comment out of both of you guys. I can see it right before get up there. I see you, but let's be straight up here. I'm not the cleanest person, mouth. I do have a little of a sailor slash mechanic slash chef slash potty mouth.
Greek.
If I want your opinion, I'll ask for it.
You told me this. I'm just repeating what you said to me in the past. It's cultural.
Yeah, and you're right. Greek too. So I don't mind the cursing a little bit. We're all adults, but you said. But if you cannot act your age, get the heck off my channel. Very simple. If you want to sit in the chats, that's fine. You can sit in the chats. But if you cannot be mature enough to come out on the channel and have a mature conversation with us, yeah, we all butt heads. I'm okay with that. We all always say, listen, beards are better than clean shaven, for example, argument's sakes. Nice hair is better than bald head, whatever. And that's us picking on each other. End of the day, that's your style, cool. This is my style, cool. But we're not doing personal attacks. I have to post it now on every single show. If you remember 2 years ago when we started this, I didn't have to start that. We didn't even need to do that back then. And guess what? Now it got to the point we have to, because people cannot grow the fuck up. But what is the reason of that? Well, partially, and I know I'm going to be a little bit hypocrite here saying this. I grew up in a household that both my parents were married. You raise your kids the same way, right, Paul?
Yeah.
And I assume you raised your same way. You, right, Trey? Your son? Both parents are together? Trey, are you awake? You're muted, buddy.
I was on mute. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was saying, I assume you raised your son, both your parents, you and your wife are together under the same roof. So when 16-year-old kids and younger are having kids or trying to raise kids, you're not raising kids. You're just having another kid whole your life. You know how many people I hear at your age, Paul, they say, oh, I'm going to slam him against the wall. Okay, maybe you're just BSing, whatever. But when he really does it, I'm like, you went hands on with somebody over something so stupid. Even if it was something serious, why go hands on? Now you got a charge. Now you got a bigger problem in your hands. Now you might be using a little time because you put hands on somebody. That makes no sense. Yeah. Great example. I had this kid named Jake at my job. All right. So he had to leave the job because he had to take care of some business at home really fast, an emergency, whatever. He came back, he's handing out bandage. I'm like, well, me and my girl got into it, so it was her face or the wall. And now his hands are all screwed up for 2 months now. And I laughed at his face, to be honest with you. I'm like, what's so funny? I'm like, you literally punched the wall because you couldn't control your temper. And you're acting like you're still in high school. I went to him. No, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you are, dude. I punched in the wall. I remember when I was in high school, the first thing I used to punch was up lockers. I don't know about you guys. That's what was my outlet back in high school. But I didn't do anything. The only thing I did is bruise my hand.
Yeah.
You learn after 20, 30 punches, like, yeah, hitting locker is not friendly. It doesn't give back.
It's not like in the movies.
Yeah. So you're not only it's better to walk away, take a deep breath, and come back. Have a conversation. You don't have to always argue. But you don't have to agree either. You can argue to disagree, like they say.
Indeed.
We do it all the time, me and you, Paul.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. But yes, we're two of the best of friends now.
Indeed.
I'm just a better looking version of it.
We'll agree to disagree. But with that,
make me push the button. Do not make me push the button.
Great closeout. That's a great closeout.
But
Yeah.
thanks for your input tonight.
Anytime, guys.
And
Sure.
certainly we look forward to again creating better content, digestible. Again, we like to talk about this, like I said, in pieces, make it digestible. Hopefully, you'll be able to cut this up as some good shorts that you can certainly share
Absolutely.
and enjoy content. Again, for the crowd, for the audience tonight, again, make sure you share this content. We definitely try to keep it succinct, but to the point, using our own life experiences and what we've learned through working ourselves, our personal developments, as well as work with other people, especially younger people. And if you think this would benefit someone, then by all means share it. Consider liking, subscribing to the network, and helping us get. We're almost, Pete's always saying we're almost there. We're almost at the point to get
We actually
monetized.
got a new prescriber tonight. So at
Fantastic.
this moment, as we speak in, we're at 482.
482. Wow, that's right.
Yeah.
So again, we're very close, guys. So again, just continue to follow us, share us, and let's break this barrier, and then let's just blow this whole thing up, and really let's have exponential growth going forward. And but I just enjoy being on this ride, and appreciate you guys. Appreciate Pete for the platform that he provides, and sort of looking forward to doing this with the coach, and sort of look forward to next week's topic. So let's go. Let's keep rolling.
All right. Before we go, let's go do a quick schedule update. I got to change. I know the schedule's a little wacky right now, but I'm going to fix it hopefully tomorrow. This Saturday, we are actually talking about the evolution of Nintendo. I'm actually very looking forward to that conversation. Is because everybody has Nintendo. Everybody's played Nintendo at one point. Even Paul has played Nintendo at one point, I hope. Have you?
The original NES, 1985.
All right, as long as you played it, that's all I care about. It'll be an interesting conversation. That's all I have to say right now. And do you remember what we were talking about on a gray area this week?
I know it's a relationship episode. It's
I think it's should you be with somebody who checks all the boxes?
all the boxes. Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yep. You're right.
And that's an interesting conversation. I give credit to myself on that one, actually. And on Tuesday, we're coming back with 5 things you should keep quiet about. That's a interesting conversation I think it's going to be. And on Wednesday, Paulie and Wally are going to be talking about Brink. Not familiar with anime, but it's a martial art type of anime. Will you guys want to talk about what you guys are going over next week?
Did you send it?
Workplace.
Yeah, I think workplace etiquette. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's how be another good one as well. Again, in this environment, it seems like we have to we have to go over this stuff again. But things were certainly worth repeating.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really fast, because people have been asking me what happened last night. So we were supposed to have a stream. I had everything set up. I was at work. I got a phone call last minute. David had a little bit of emergency, so he could not show up. That's why it was an hour delay before I was able to take it down. By the time I got home from my work, get on my computer and take it down, then Wally posted the message like you guys saw. Unfortunately, he's okay, but he will be back. They're planning on doing an update with a video this week, so keep your eyes open on that. Should be out tomorrow, actually. Except that, he's fine overall. He's just being baby Groot like he is always, baby Groot. So, except that, guys, got anything else? Maybe we'll close out.
We're good. We're good. Great show. Good time. And
sir.
definitely look forward to next week.
Close it out, guys.
All right. Well, again, we thank you for being with us again. For everyone out there, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week. Take care.